Hello, welcome to the Basketball Soapbox here on YouTube, Facebook, the Basketball Soapbox Network, as always. Um, and this one here, I'm going live. Um, Trying this again. I tried it a little while ago, a couple months ago, a little bit. But just trying it here again as the NBA Finals is continuing here. We have the NBA Finals Game 3 that's about to be on Wednesday. And I just wanted to give a little bit of analysis of the series so far. Over the first two games, we didn't think, well, at the start of the series, we did not think that the Miami Heat could make it much of a series, right? Like, at most, I was like, they're going to be able to get to one or two games, right? Like in every series that Miami Heat does, right? They're able to get one or two games, scratch and claw to get a game. They're going to find a way. They're going to junk up the game, Spo's a good enough coach to try different adjustments, make things work, to make it a little bit more gritty, right? So that was the least expectations for the Miami Heat in this series. Looking at it in game one, it did look like that, right? Like the Denver Nuggets were going to roll over the Miami Heat, especially with the way that Nikola Jokic was playing and Jamal Murray were playing with their two-man game. Really dissecting the Miami Heat defense, right? And using their size, right? Like, especially Aaron Gordon in the first game. Got off to 12 points in the first quarter, just basically running to the basket, sealing off the Miami Heat, smaller guards in transition, getting seals, and scoring, posting up, backing down, and scoring on the inside. So that was the first thing that was noticeable so far in this series, right? The size of the Denver Nuggets compared to the Miami Heat. Bam Adebayo being the biggest guy at 6'9", trying to guard Nikola Jokic, trying to stop all these backdoor cuts, protect the rim, rebound, do all these little things that is needed, especially against a team like Denver, right? Especially with Nikola Jokic, we're operating out of the high post where he has the ability to be a triple threat type scorer, right? He's able to post up, he's able to shoot the mid-range, he's able to shoot the three, dribble handoffs with Jamal Murray, pick and rolls, things of that nature that Nikola Jokic can just do. And over the course of that first game, it was just like Miami's only shot, right, was to hit 3-pointers, right, to at least try to replicate what they have been doing over the postseason, right? They were 27th, I believe, in the regular season from shooting the three ball. In the playoffs, they were number one. So going into that game, you thought that was going to be a point of emphasis of that. And when you see Max Strus start off the way he did, shooting the ball terribly, that's not going to help, right? Like, that's not going to uh, open up the defense for Jimmy Butler, open up the defense for Bam Adebayo. And Miami basically said, all right, we're going to take your weak point of your offense, Bam Adebayo, and force him to score, right? And, of course, Bam had 25 points on 26 shots. 26 on 25 shots. But the point is that he's not the vocal point of your offense, right? You want these other guys like a Gabe Vincent who played well in both games, I'll talk about, who played well in both games to shoot the basketball. You don't want these other guys like Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin to get off. And that's basically what it was the Denver Nuggets just looking at those guys and saying, hey, you're not going to be able to shoot the ball. We're going to let you get every shot you want in the first game, and that's what happened in the first game. We're going to let you get all these open shots, and the Miami Heat were just not converting on them. I think they were 4 for 18 on open shots in the first game, and you just didn't think Miami could score with this team, right? But Miami, surprisingly, in the first game, which kind of gave them a little hope, and which I was thinking of, was that the fact that they held them to 103 points, despite the missing from 3-point shots, despite the inconsistencies on offense, despite the hesitance of Jimmy Butler in the first game. The bright spot was Bam Adebayo scoring. The second bright spot was the defense of the Miami Heat. And that carried over to game two, where I thought people are really talking about the third quarter. Of course, the fourth quarter by Duncan Robinson coming in and scoring 10 straight points, which was wild, even getting to the basket and getting an and one in that retrospect. But ultimately, I didn't think that was the breaking point in the series for the Miami Heat. I thought in the second quarter, I think the Nuggets were up 50-36, and that's a 14, 15-point lead for the Denver Nuggets about to head into halftime. The way the Miami Heat just battled back, I think even Cody Zeller scored a bucket. The ability that they just had to grind it down and get it to 6 points before halftime, I thought that was the turning point in game 2 for the Miami Heat. Because at that point in time, with the way the Nuggets were playing, yeah, guys weren't hitting shots for them, but Joker was involved. Bruce Brown was involved. All these other guys were involved. And over the course of that, it's just like, okay, you get a 15-point lead going into the halftime. If you're the Denver Nuggets, that game is over. And the Miami Heat found a way to claw themselves back into the game and get it to why is this not posted? And get it to the 6-point part, right? Like they were able to cut it down to 6-point lead for the Denver Nuggets. And that part right there just showed the fight of the Miami Heat. And I was just like, okay, it's going to be a game here. The game is not over yet. Because if you have a 15-point lead going into halftime, it's pretty difficult. And especially the way the Joker came out in the third quarter, scoring 18, I believe, in the third quarter, and basically just abusing Cody Zeller. I said he looked like the dude from Celtic Pride. He was getting worn out to the point where it was getting him confused on the offensive end where he bobbled the ball a couple of times, right? But just over the course of that and Bam Adebayo's play, I can't speak enough about Bam, the way he has been playing in this series. Really putting it together here. 23.5 points per game. He had 21 in this game, 53% from the field, 11 rebounds and 4.5 assists over the course of the series. He's scoring enough for the Miami Heat where Jimmy Butler's trying to find his game to keep them in it, right? Gabe Vincent's knocking down shots. Max Strus, of course, coming out in game 2 having a tremendously better shooting performance than he did in game 1, right? Like those were the factors for the Miami Heat. I believe they only had 11 3-pointers in the first game and shot 33%. In the second game, they had 17 three-point shots and shot 48% from 3. That's the recipe for the Miami Heat, where you don't think they're able to keep up with Nikola Jokic. They're not able to keep up with Jamal Murray. The ability to knock down shots keeps them in the game. And that's the difference. I think the Denver Nuggets only made 11 threes in the game. It was a horrible shooting performance from the Denver Nuggets, especially from KCP and Michael Porter Jr., who just couldn't get it going on the night. Jamal Murray was kind of ineffective. But let's talk about the Miami Heat defense in that. The Miami Heat defense, the ability to go to zone, kind of stagnates things, kind of throws people off, and especially with Nikola Jokic, who's able to play in that middle realm and get to the basket, able to score like that. You figure that would be the calling card for them, right? Like that would be the answer to the zone, and it has been working. Force Nikola Jokic to be a scorer. That's what people have been saying, to force him to be a scorer. I believe Tim Bontemps was talking to Mark Jackson after game 1, and Mark Jackson instantly said, make him a scorer. And I've said this about many superstars before. Let them get all they want and take out the other guys. And that's essentially what the Miami Heat did in game 2. The ineffectiveness of Jamal Murray, slowing him down. Aaron Gordon was solid, had 12 points, I believe. But the effectiveness of taking out Michael Porter Jr., taking out a KCP out of the realm where they can have those 3-point shooters, guys that can score, taking away their jumpers, taking away their shots, and turning it around and slowing down, basically making Joker do everything, right? And he can get anything he wants this series. He's averaging 34 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists on 60, 42, 85 splits from the field. So you're sitting there looking and you're like, they're forcing Joker to score. They're forcing him to play a way that's not naturally rubbing off on his teammates, because that's what Joker does, right? He's able to run that 2-man game with Jamal Murray, able to hit guys on cutters and backdoor cuts. And the Miami Heat said, nope, we're going to simplify everything. We're going to make the Joker work. We're going to double him at certain points, blitz him. We're going to force these other guys, not let them beat us. And that's what the Miami Heat did, where they got the 111-108 victory. And Miami just came out hot in the fourth quarter. They hung around enough, and Duncan Robinson knocked down enough shots there to give them a chance early on in that game. And that was the difference. 1 second here. And that was the difference for them, right? So you're sitting there looking at it from that perspective where the Miami Heat are enough to junk up the game, right? Get it, kind of funnel everything to the Joker, right? Not let these other guys collectively get off. Whereas the Miami Heat, I believe Jimmy Butler and Bam both had 21 games and had 23. The ability to get multiple scores like that, the adjustments by Spoelstra starting Kevin Love. Kevin Love by no means is a defender. He's not going to stop anybody. He's not going to do that, right? Like, he's not going to do that. But the way that he was able to put a body on Aaron Gordon, slow him down effectively enough to say, you're not just going to back us down. You're not just going to get in the way, and take that advantage that you had in game one. We're not going to do that. We're not going to let you get off to a hot start like that. We're not going to do that. The second thing that he did was putting Jimmy Butler on Jamal Murray, putting a bigger, stronger guard on him, forcing him to kind of be out of the game, take him out the game. Basically, those dribble handoffs are not going to be as easy as you thought it was going to be. It's not going to happen. And we saw that on the last play of the game, right, where they actually switched to Jamal Murray on Jimmy Butler. And when they did that, I thought, first of all, Jimmy Butler's strong enough to kind of make Jamal Murray kind of pick up his dribble a little bit. And we saw that when Jimmy Butler reached in and almost got a steal. Right? So, and Jamal Murray got a look at the ball, but it was a more difficult shot than anticipated. People are saying he should have called the timeout, various things of that nature. But those two things, just matching strength with Kevin Love on Aaron Gordon, just to be a big body, Jimmy Butler on Jamal Murray, it took the Denver Nuggets out of their offense. More than making Joker a score, right? We're going to take away these other guys. And Joker, if you score 50 and beat us, we'll shake your hand. And that's the thing that I think a lot of places should do, right? Like that should be the focus. Like, especially with a superstar player with Joker, who really thrives on getting other guys involved, other guys not creating their own shots, and things of that nature. When you funnel everything to him and say, hey, you're going to have to score tonight, big fella. And Joker is capable of doing that. They almost got away with it. But that takes the rest of the Denver Nuggets out of the game. That takes Jeff Green out. That takes Bruce Brown out. That takes Jamal Murray out. And late in game situations when you need to make a run and make scores and stuff like that, and you take those guys who haven't touched the ball in a while, it affects what they're able to do. And that's what the Miami Heat were able to do against the Denver Nuggets in game two. And I'm not making this anything more than what it needs to be. Of course, Denver Nuggets missed some type of defensive assignments, let guys get a couple open shots. And the Miami Heat, credit to them, were able to knock down their shots. But the Denver Nuggets right there have fell into a little bit of a lull, right? They won game one. Miami Heat won game two. They won a road game, the first loss for the Denver Nuggets this whole postseason. So that shows that Miami, hey, we're comfortable enough to go in there and get a win. Regardless of what happens in Miami, at least if we can get a split there and get it back to Denver, we at least know we can at least get a game there. And I think that's very important for the standpoint of the Miami Heat, especially building confidence going forward, getting a couple guys more acclimated to shooting, getting them more comfortable shooting the ball. Bam Adebayo has been awesome for this series, but it's going to be interesting looking ahead to game three, where I think more of that should continue. I think the shooting for Miami will be a little bit better. I think Joker's going to try to do that thing where he did in the first game, where it's like, I'm going to actually make sure I pass the ball, get other guys involved early, things of that nature to help alleviate the pain that was felt in game two. What do we have here? But continuing, just seeing that the Miami Heat were able to go in there, junk up the game enough, do certain things to make it more difficult for the Denver Nuggets, gives Miami a chance, right? Like, that's the one thing that we thought about going in this series. How does Miami figure out a way to their Joker problem, the dribble, the two-man game between him and Jamal Murray? These other guys shooting the ball. How are we going to be able to score with these guys? And the answer was defense. And the answer was knocking down a couple of more shots than they were in game one. And if Miami's able to do that now going back to South Beach, Denver has to figure it out. And of course, we think Denver is the more talented team. They are the more talented team. They have a little bit more depth, I think. But Miami's will, right? That's the one thing that they have also showed to me in this game, in this series, is that they're not going to quit. They're not going to lay down. They're going to find ways to give themselves a chance, really like knock on the door and give themselves a chance. And I think that's the one thing about Miami. I think Miami can win game three. I think they're going to be a little bit more mojo. They're back at home. Guys are more comfortable shooting at home. The Max Strus, the Caleb Martins, the Gabe Vincent, who have already been. Gabe Vincent has already been playing well this series. Has obviously boosted up whatever contract he's going to be getting in the offseason. But in terms of the other guys, Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, Kevin Love, maybe he can even knock down a shot this series. Kyle Lowry, role players play good at home. And the way Bam and Jimmy Butler have been playing, and Jimmy Butler has been off a little bit in this series. He came on late in the fourth quarter, scoring 8 in the fourth quarter in game 2, and knocking down a big 3 in the corner, and then was able to get an and 1. So with that effectiveness, the Miami Heat defense, I expect them to win game 3. I'm going to give them the chance in game 3 to take the edge 2-1. Not saying they're going to win the series, but I think that momentum, guys being back at home, Miami Heat still going to use the zone, junk up things. They found something with Jimmy Butler on Jamal Murray. They found something putting Kevin Love into the game, putting a bigger body in the game. So Aaron Gordon just doesn't have free run to the basket and offensive rebounds and things of that nature. I think Miami wins game 3. Moving on.